Hello everyone. Today's session will cover basically resort group table and its form. Previously we have covered a form for parameters and there we have applied table of content pattern. And today we will observe that this table contains two fields. One is called resort group ID and the other one is for name. So only these are two fields available in this table. So for this, we will use a pattern called simple list, or there is another pattern simple list and details list grid pattern. But since our table contains two fields, so we'll use simply the simple list form design pattern here. So for that, we'll just follow the same pattern as we have followed in the previous session of parameter form. So starting with our project, we will just right click and add a new item and go to the user interface, and in the user interface we will just select the form object, and there we need to give this logical name. So since we are developing a resort management system, so we'll give it a name like PKR resort, and it should also be similar to our table, which is PKR underscore resort group. So we will definitely use the same name for the form as well. This is inconsistent with the existing architecture of D365, where form and tables and even menu item, they hold the same name. So we'll just go ahead with creation of this form, and again we will see the three panes. The bottom one will be preview pane or the pattern pane, and at the top we'll see two panes, one with the design node and the other one with the data source and form level methods and events and parts node. So these are three panes which will be available once we create a new form. So what we can do now, uh, from the left hand pane, we need to, so what we can do here is you can see the data source, and we will just drag and drop similarly just we have done in the parameters form. So we'll just drag and drop the resort group to the data source node, and there we can now see whatever the fields we have enabled on the property level, which are created by created date and time, modified by and modified date and time. And there are some built-in fields like data area ID, partition rack ID, and these are user-defined fields, resort group ID and name field. So now these are available, and once we have dragged and dropped, and what we can do is we can go to the design node. It is showing a pattern is unspecified so far. We will define pattern also, but for now, once we select the design node, we can give it a caption, and caption in our case would be we need to check also uh, from our table what we have given the caption like resort group ID. Let me check. This is a resort groups, and this must be in the label file. Yes, and we can reuse the same label here as well. So we'll just select this label ID and copy it and place in our design property caption. Okay, and once we have defined the caption, then the next should be to set the title data source and data sources property to the table name. So we can go ahead with the data source will be resort group, and there will be title data source, again the resort group. These will be the default data sources to obtain the data from. And once we have defined these two properties also, we can now apply a simple list pattern. We can also meanwhile see that the caption is now visible. Just go ahead on the design node and right click over it and go to apply pattern, and here we can find the simple list pattern which is available here. and just apply it. And then what we can do, we can add an action pen control. So just right click again on the design node, and go to the new, and here we can go to action pen. Okay, so this is now available. We can just rename it and just remove one digit at the end. Form action pen control is okay. What we can do next is, so because this action pen will be only one available, so we have removed the numbering at the end. And here we can also see in the property that you can see the data source is here not defined, because it is by default defaulted from the design itself. We have already defined the data source at the design node level, so we don't need to define it again on action pen level or this control level. And now what we can do is we need to just select the design node here, and here we can see at the bottom pattern tab at the bottom that custom filter group is missing, and simple list grid is showing that it is these two things are missing here. So this first one, custom filter group, is group control. So we need to just add a group control type again. Just right click on the design pattern and go to the new, and go to find the group here. So once we have defined, you can see the missing part has gone, and now it is available here. And also this one is also needing a pattern here, which is showing that we need to select the pattern in the group level. So what we can do is we can assign custom and quick filter pattern here. So just right click and go to apply pattern, and there is only one available for this control, so just apply custom and quick filter here. So once we have applied, again quick filter is also shown as missing. So what that is going further also. So now what we can do, we must have one quick filter control here. So we can just right click. We can also rename it as to custom filter group. Just right click over it, and now what we can do is go to new and select the quick filter control. Now if you check, it is now gone, missing sign is gone now, and quick filter control is now available here. So we will just remove the digit at the end. So we can again see at the parent level if there is something missing, and now we can see at the top level, that is design node level, we can see simple list grid is missing here. So what we can do is just right click over it and add the grid control. So once it is added, now you can see all missing has been gone, and we have added successfully form grid control here. And again we will remove the digit because only one control will be used here. So on the form grid control, we need to see data source property here, which is not defaulted from the design node and does not inherit from the parent node. So we must specify here the data source, which is the resort group. So and now what we can do is We have already created on the if you remember in previous example, in the field group level there was a field group called overview here. So we can now use this overview field group where we can use it in the data group property just above the data source. Once we select the data source, we can go to the data group and we can select this overview field group from the table level. So if we want to also change or rename the control form grid control, we can do before adding to the before setting the data group property, because otherwise it will be defaulted as a prefix. So similarly, just here form grid control underscore resort group ID and underscore name are by default prefixed with the control name here. So now we can go to the quick filter control, which is here, and we can set the target control to the grid control. So here is target control property, and we can select form grid control, which is the only grid control available on this form. And once we have selected to the this property, then default column here we need to select to the desired default control of the target control. So what will be the default column here? That will be the resort group ID, which I have now selected. And now we need to also check the pattern tab by clicking on each of the nodes, so that if there is something missing and does not look like that anything is missed up. And after that, what we can do is just save our changes. Next, we need to create a menu item, and that menu item definitely will be the with the same name. So what we can do, just right click and add a menu item by adding new item, and it will be also a display menu item definitely, because it is opening a form. So just give it a name like PKR underscore resort group. So this will be the menu item name. And then from the design, the caption property resort groups, just copy this label and place it over the menu items label property. So this should be the same name. And then what we can do is similarly on the table level that we have already opened here. If you remember, we have knowingly left a property that was a form ref property, because that at that time there was no form which was existing against this table. So but now we have already created a form, so we can set this property as well to the default form, which is resort group form. So now finally what we can do is save the changes and go to the menu which we have already created, resort management, and just open or expand the node with the setup. And since this is the part of setup, so the menu item will need to be dragged and drop into the setup menu sub menu. So after just parameters, the group menu will appear. This is inconsistent with the existing modules, if you have noticed. So then just save the changes and close the form, which we have already double checked against any of the missing thing. But we have missed one thing, which is the resort group menu item need to set the object property. Object type is already by default form, and object need to be resort group. So without this property, how the menu item can open the form? So definitely we need to set the object type as form and object to be exactly the form which we have already created, and the label we have already set here. So that's it, and just save again, and then we need to just build and then relaunch the browser. Just now we have built the project, and we can go to the resort management menu. Once we are there, we can see our new display menu item is showing there. Just click, that is under sub menu of setup, and other sub menus are not visible until they have some of the menu items inside them. And now you can see here that this form contains simple list view. Uh, so now we can enter a few, we can just edit it, and like for example, coastal, we can add the grouping, coastal resort, and similarly uh, downtown. So in the same way, we can add now grouping for the resort, and now this form is also functional, and this is part of a setup submenu. So definitely whatever the grouping you will be adding here will be used later on in resort form. So we have done now this example, and what we have covered is we have applied a simple list pattern to our new form, which was of a setup type. And previously we have developed a table for this in previous training videos, and in this video we have developed a form, and then a display menu item of resort group. And in that form we have set up certain properties, including the custom filter group, first of all action pane, and then custom filter group and a grid control. Inside that grid control, we have selected the data source property to be of the same table type, resort group. We have already dragged and dropped that data source, and then definitely we set the data group property, which will be basically table group property, and that defaulted the two fields which we have already inserted in the overview table group field group. Sorry. In the overview field group, we have dropped these fields, and those as a data in the data group property. Once we have selected data group property overview, so that already defaulted the fields. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll just keep tuned so that next video will be covering further user interface elements, definitely forms of various type in our resort management system. Thank you guys. Take care.